Veterans, are you looking for an event that is outside of the norm? One that is not so doom and gloom, but is a hell of a lot of fun, and you get to hang out with your fellow warriors and drink some beers? Then stay tuned. We're going to be chatting with Bob Savin. He's the host of the Milford Silkie Hike in Massachusetts that me and my buddy Mike got to go down to last summer. We had an absolute blast, and I'm not lying when I say this is one of the best veteran events I've ever been to. So stay tuned to the episode and learn how you can participate and get involved. I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Natesto. Natesto is an FDA-approved testosterone replacement therapy. For those of you that are suffering from low testosterone and want to know more, head to natesto.com for more information. Hey, folks, sitting down today with Bob Savin. Is it Savin or Savin?
Savin.
Yeah, nice. Okay. Those emphases on different parts of people's last names. It annoys me because everybody seems to get my name wrong as soon as you leave the province of Quebec. They call me Morrow. So,
Really?
Okay, Bob Savin. Okay, gotcha. Did I get it right? Savin? Savin. See, I already screwed it up. Savin. But the point of today's discussion is not about how to pronounce your last name. It is about your involvement in Irreverent Warriors. So that was something that I got tuned into 2 years ago because we started talking with folks from Grunt Style, and then one thing led to another, and then, oh, hey, there's this Silkie Hikes. I'm like, what are Silkie Hikes? I'm like, wow, that sounds like a ton of fun. And you're the coordinator of the Milford hike that me and Mike, who's in the background throwing up the websites, went to about a month ago, right? That was a month ago.
Yeah, May 25th. Yeah,
like
just over a month.
Just over a month ago. We had a blast, and I wanted to chat to you more about it and how you got involved and what this is all about, because this is a big blind spot here in Canada for sure, and maybe folks in the States too haven't heard about this. So Bob, let's start with how'd you get involved first of all in something like Irreverent Warriors, and what's been your lead up to it?
Yeah, so it's sort of interesting. I mean, it's a bit of a story, but owning a fitness center, every year, we were looking at different ways to sort of give back to the community. And around Thanksgiving time, I'm not much of a runner. So rather than go out and run a 5K, I thought, okay, well, what if we do a workout here at the gym, here at the personal training studio, and we do a workout and we donate all the money to some organization. And so for a number of years doing that, we got to a point where, one year we said, all right, let's give to some military veterans organization. And we didn't really have one to go with. So we started asking around, and my wife has a cousin who is an Army Ranger. And there's another, on my side of the family, one of my cousins was married to a Marine. And we started just asking questions about who we could donate to. And my wife's cousin really didn't have much. He was just getting out himself. Whereas my cousin said, why don't you check out this group, Irreverent Warriors? And this was back in probably about 2015, 2016, right around the time Irreverent Warriors had started. And when they started out, I think that it was very much a veterans group. It was very disorganized. It was sort of a party, if you will, but it was important work that was being done. But it was, like I said, it was a little raw. And so we did the workout. We gave them some money, sent a check, and that's sort of where things got left. But as time went on, and I got to meet my wife's cousin, and we started talking about ways that we sort of support the military. It sort of became really evident to me that just writing a check wasn't super helpful. I could write a check for whatever the amount was. It was never enough, and it really didn't have a direct impact on anyone's life that was visible. It just made me feel good, but it really didn't do anything for veterans that they were able to sort of feel. And sadly, around not shortly thereafter, my cousin's husband died by suicide, and this was the guy who turned us on to Irreverent Warriors, and we felt like he had some things going on at the time where it wasn't that Irreverent Warriors couldn't help him, but there were just too many other issues, and we sort of felt a pull at that point to really learn more about the organization and see how we could help, or we just felt connected in some way. And so we went to our first hike in 2017 and just showed up as civilian volunteers. How can we help with registration? Can we hand out some water, some oranges? Like, what can we do to help? And we had an incredible experience that day, and really felt connected to the people that we were helping. And just from that point forward, I mean, the following year, we showed up again and offered to help. And there were some things that happened that year where more people were needed on the planning side or on the leadership side. So my wife and I got more involved that way. And it's where we first got to meet Cindy McNally, who is the president or director of Irreverent Warriors. And just each year that sort of continued to grow. We started helping out the different hike leaders, the following years. And then ultimately when the hike leader needed to step down last year is when I got more involved and took over for our Worcester hike last year. And that was the first hike that I ran as a coordinator. So I did Worcester last year and then Milford this year. But, as a civilian, that was a very high honor. And I was very proud to step into that, not being a veteran myself, but feeling that I was connected to enough people and sort of made that whole transition from not even knowing how to help, and thinking that writing a check was the best way to help, to now sort of being in charge or leading this organization here in Massachusetts.
Yeah. Let's get into that just a little bit because it's important to the story. You mentioned like as a civilian. Okay, well, like why is that even relevant, right? But it is because to go back to what the Irreverent Warriors is, if you can give just kind of an overview of what this actually is and why being a civilian is kind of a big deal here. Clarify that a little bit.
So the main mission is to bring veterans together using humor and camaraderie to improve mental health and prevent veteran suicide. And so I can imagine, in a lot of ways, certainly as a civilian, I can be a good listener, but I can't understand all the complex issues that affect our veterans. And I don't sometimes understand the terminology, the stories, you name it. And a lot of veterans aren't necessarily comfortable having those conversations in front of civilians. They feel like maybe we won't understand or don't want to understand. And so I can understand that. But for me, like I said, it was really just a matter of being there to help in any way I could. I don't interject myself in their conversations and stories where I'm not wanted. But I wanted them to know that I did care. And so, I try the best I can. And that's, when I first started and, being a little closer to some of the hikers over the years, that was always a thing. When I got asked to support the hike in some way, I made sure that I did it from a distance until I was asked to do more. And, and I'm always very careful with that. You guys, when you met me and when I meet a lot of people, because the haircut and, how I come across, I'll put on the silkies at a hike. I'm very careful to make sure that people understand that I'm not trying to pose. I'm not trying to be anything I'm not. But yeah, the organization is really built around those friendships, the camaraderie, the things that are troubling veterans the most. And they need that space to have those conversations. And not feel like anybody's watching or judging.
Fellas, bring it in. Nice and tight. Bring it in. Nice and tight. We need to talk about it.
All right. Seriously. We need to talk about something that most of us don't want to talk about. That's why I put on my nice blue dress shirt to bring a bit of seriousness to an often hilarious topic. But your sexual health is no joke. Seriously, though. Sexual health needs a lot more attention than it's been given. Let me go over a few things here. Research has shown that regular sex, 1 to 2 times per week, can reduce the risk of cardiovascular mortality by 50%. Bring that one to your wife right now. Lower the risk of prostate cancer by 33% and reinvigorate your mind and body. The problem is 40% of men in their 40s, 50% of men in their 50s, and 60% of men in their 60s experience some form of erectile dysfunction. This is even worse in the veteran community. On top of all this, erectile dysfunction is correlated with a future cardiovascular event and is an early warning sign of a future issue. This is why Dr. Elliott, board certified urologist and friend of the podcast, has created this one of a kind, first in its category, revolutionary device called the Firm Tech Ring. This high-speed tech for your dick will give you real-time data
and allow you to see how many nocturnal erections you get every night, which can be a great bit of data that you can bring to your doctor for a future conversation. Not only that, this data could literally save your life. You know, I'm all about improving the health and lives of the veteran community. And that's why I've paired up with Dr. Elliot Justin to provide you with a 10% discount if you head to the link that's here in the description to get yourself your first Firm Tech ring if you use the code DMorrow at checkout. So head to the link in the description and start tracking so that you can start banging. All right, brother. So go do what you got to do and be one of the first to bring a whole new meaning to being hard to kill. I want to be able to save you almost $4,000 per year. If you haven't got yourself a copy of the Nimble Warrior, this is my first book, and it is all based on what I've done in order to get myself out of the pain cave. Let me explain. Over 60% of Canadian Armed Forces veterans are experiencing chronic pain. Of all the medical releases, about 42% are musculoskeletal injuries. If we boil that down, a lot of us are suffering from back, knee, and hip injuries. What that means is we're experiencing high levels of pain, which reduce your quality of life. If you want to change that, I recommend getting a copy of my book, The Nimble Warrior, right here. You're going to be able to find a copy on Amazon, and you're going to be able to start doing the protocol that I use to help myself get out of the pain cave when I hurt my back. So head over to Amazon right now. Description is in the bio. Link is in the bio, and you're going to be able to get your own copy in time for the Christmas season so that you can start moving and grooving and feeling a lot better about yourself. So head to the link, head to the description, and get yourself a copy of The Nimble Warrior. Peace.
Agreed. That's what really turned me on to the organization, was that it's veterans only. You show up, you go for a walk. The point is so that you can open up amongst your fellow veterans. And, you know, we have a lot of walks here. I've even organized some ruck marches, but they're open to everybody because the intent is different. The intent is to bring the community, which is not just the veteran community, to integrate you more into civilian life as well. So different mission on that one. So I like the fact that this one's just, hey, you know what? We're veterans. We're going out. We're going to say some dirty jokes. We're going to be irreverent, and we're going to have a fun time doing it. So that's where I found the you know, I don't want to call it the crown jewel or the most important point, but the whole concept was that this is for the veteran community, and not just Americans either. The walks have now gone international. I think they're in Europe now too. No.
Yeah, there was a few recently. I mean, I know just off the top of my head, they did Italy this year. They actually, not too long ago, I think it was probably about the week or so after our hike, they were in Normandy. I know they've done one in London. You know, and then a little closer to home. I mean, you know, Puerto Rico and Guam and Hawaii, like just all over the place. They're now I think over probably close to 100 hikes throughout the year. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of places where people can go and find that camaraderie. And we have a lot of hikers that travel. There were several people from up this way that just went down to Rehoboth Beach in Delaware for the hike last weekend. So every week, I know we're planning on probably being in New York this year, and also in Connecticut.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
So there's definitely opportunity for people to go.
And for those that are uninitiated, what are silkies?
You're going to ask the civilian to explain silkies, huh?
So, well, I mean, I'm not the one to explain it either, because like we don't wear them up here.
Yeah. So from what I gather, right? I mean, they're tiny little, almost running shorts is probably the thing that most people can identify. I always call them like 1980s era basketball shorts.
Yeah.
You know. But they're short shorts that were commonly worn during PT back in the day. So it sort of harkens back to sort of that, you know, we talk about irreverent all the time, but the reverence that a lot of veterans have for those that came before them. It's sort of remembering the past, but at the same time, not taking yourself too seriously. It's real hard to come across as serious when you're wearing, you know, tiny little shorts with unicorns on them. Or so the more irreverent, the better, I guess, on some of those.
Yeah, for sure. No, but
it allows people that connection, right? It's that laughter, right? That when someone comes out wearing tiny little shorts and you start giggling, you know, it opens people up. It's, you know, it welcomes people in to start having those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Ranger panties, the silkies, whatever you want to call them, when you're all walking around with your socks pulled up and like a rucksack on, and you're kind of out there, right? So it opens up the potential for connection, right? Because it's almost like Halloween.
Right.
You know, it's like, hey, cool. You know, you guys wearing, you know, American flag silkies. Like next year, we got to get Canadian flag silkies. That's like a must. And it breaks some barriers down in terms of wanting to connect, because then you kind of know, like, hey, we're in the club. Yeah, we're in the silky club.
And then, like, you know, outside of that, well, you're right. It sort of gives that club like belonging to something, you know, atmosphere as well, and it sort of puts everybody on the same level that day. Not that you have to wear silkies, but it just says, hey, I belong here. And I think sometimes what I've kind of gotten is that, you know, you all could be a little like territorial about like, oh, I'm Army and Navy and Marines, and everybody's got their thing, right? But in silkies, you're all one tribe, right? And it sort of brings everybody together that way as well.
Now, if that hike had been a little bit later in June, I definitely think people could have mistaken it for a gay pride parade. Yes. So I could see where, that. Yeah, I'd probably like, hey, gay pride. It's like, oh, well, yeah, hey, man, everybody's invited, but it's a veterans thing. That was the running gag anytime we went out, right? You know, a platoon of guys or a section of guys, we all kind of look the same. We're all big, we're all fit. You know, we'd be like, hey, what do you got? And we're always like hugging each other and stuff. It's like, hey, what's up with you guys? That's like a little homoeroticism. It's all right. You know, we're bros. And the camaraderie, though, on the big picture, though, is really what it's all about. And I know me and Mike, we had such a like deep experience there, because you helped organize a special part of the event, which I wasn't quite expecting. We were walking to the memorial in the center of Milford, and I was like, "Oh, this is amazing!" You know, we had all the American flags, and then you had just like at the front there, you had somebody that was going to sing the national anthem, and I knew there was something that was going to happen. But you're like, "You guys get over here, get over here." I'm like, "What do you mean, me, Mike? Like, get over here." I'm like, "Okay, all right, we're good." And I really like the touch of class where you had the Canadian national anthem sung. That was really nice, along with the American national anthem. And then the most powerful thing was reading out all the names of the fallen and all those that had lost somebody that they wanted to say their names. That was a tearjerker, man. Like, that was hard. But really, I don't know if it's cathartic, but it's definitely something that's needed, because I don't, other than Mike and, I got to know you, I only know, you two people there essentially. And then the people we're connecting with on the walk, but the sense of community that we've all been through this 20 years of, fighting together was so powerful, man. So congratulations on setting that up. Was that something that you've done on every March, or was that something new this year?
No, we've done it in Massachusetts for some time now, and I think it's sort of gotten a little stronger over the years. Maybe it's just my connection to it, but we really started to. Each hike has its own different feel to it, and not every hike does something like that. As I said, and every year is sort of a challenge. I think when we were talking about it a couple of years ago about doing it, I had some reservations about it because I know it's a real hard moment for a lot of people. And, some of the criticism sometimes is that, well, geez, you could have warned me, because some people aren't quite ready for it. But, in my mind, I mean, here's the thing about the day is that, you're all going through this thing, right? We all get together in the morning, everybody's laughing and smiling and hugging it out. They got their silkies on, and we're having this grand old time. And it gets real easy to sort of forget about why you're there in the first place. Was that there was something that you needed to get off your chest or something? And maybe it wasn't you, but maybe somebody else did. And people are sort of still bottled up because it's easy to hide behind the fun. And, I felt like putting that in the middle of the day sort of gives us that opportunity to reflect on some things and to have that hard moment. and to cry it out and hug it out. But then everybody just sort of has that release, and then boom, we're off to the next place, and we're off to, get a drink or, do something else fun. And right after that, I think everybody sort of perks up again, and you've sort of let that go for the day. But now you also, it's hard not to open up in that moment. So those people that were bottled up all day finally have that moment to let it go, and you go, yes, I got to hug that person. And that's the person I got to watch out for the rest of the day today, because I didn't realize that they were struggling, but now I know they are. Mm-hmm. So it gave, a way to do that. And that was our special way to do it. Other hikes do different things. I know up in Connecticut, down in Connecticut, I guess, one of the things that Eric does there, and he's carried on this tradition from other people that have run the hike there, was they have 2 tombstones. And what they do is they have, when you arrive that day, rather than carry the names on your ruck, a lot of people have ribbons with names on them, like we do at some other events. At Tough Ruck, we carry the names. But rather than do that at a hike, we say, you know what? Hey, let's leave, you don't have to carry that weight today. All right. Let's put that name on the stone here, and we'll have people carry that. And it's an honored position to carry that stone at the head of the hike. But we'll carry that weight for you today. Mm-hmm. You can let that go. And people take turns carrying that weight. And carrying that stone, and it's real awkward and uncomfortable to carry this thing, but they write the names on there, and it gives everybody that same sort of sense. So we try to find different things, and again, I'm not sure what they're doing at other hikes now, but at least here in New England, we've really tried to find ways to give people that opportunity to open up about something.
Yeah, I like what you said there about some folks can hide behind like the fun and the good times, which, it's easy to have fun for a lot of us, right? But then to be able to have a moment of reflection, like you said, where folks can do it within their own community, I think that was the most important part, because avoiding the hard stuff is the case in point. Like, I'm not speaking from a soapbox here. I would avoid the hard stuff all the time, but that's not a way to heal, right? So I'm able to go to it, and the reason being why that's important is that I'm able to go to things like this now, because normally I wouldn't. Like, I'm talking years ago, I didn't want anything to do with this. I didn't want anything to do with the veteran community. I just didn't want to be involved in the world whatsoever, because it brought up all the bad memories, right? But now I can enjoy these things, and it's a lot of fun. But I also appreciate doing a remembrance service during a hike like this, because I recognize its importance, and it's like shedding off a little bit more of that weight. What they're doing in Connecticut sounds like kind of like the symbolism of like, hey, this weight can be shared. So I really like that. I just love the whole concept. I love the event that you did. It was so well run. Like, me and Mike have been talking about it ever since. Like, man, I just flowed so well. Like, God damn, that guy knows how to put event. So it was just so good, man.
That's a whole other background.
Yeah, I can make the background, like having organized events. There's so much going on in the background, right? We had this expression that I learned on one of my leadership courses. It's like a good leader is like a duck, and on the top, skimming around the surface, like, man, that duck's doing really well, but below, the legs are going like beep, 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 like this constantly, right? There's always something going on. But definitely great job, Bob, on the event. We're definitely going to find time to do other Irreverent Warriors, if not yours, whenever we can. And definitely want to invite more Canadians to experience it as well. So what does it look like in the future for you when it comes to Irreverent Warriors? Like, what you said you had one in Worcester, there's one in Milford. Are you planning on like organizing more? How does that kind of look in the future?
No, so I mean, there's, at least not locally. I mean, I think that there's always room for expansion, I guess, if people want to come and do an event. And I think people really love the hike. What we found, years ago, and of course, like I said, when we started with Irreverent Warriors, we'd have this big, huge event once a year. We'd have the hike, and then it would be, okay, let's plan it again and do it next year. And the problem with that is, of course, when you tell right in your mission that your goal is to bring veterans together and prevent veteran suicide, it's real hard to do one event a year. and say, great, good job. Nobody died today. See you next year.
Right.
Like, God, I hope I see you next year, like maybe they'll be back and not keep in touch with those people. And I know everybody's got their smaller communities that they're sort of watching out for each other. But, from our standpoint, like to only do that once a year was hard. So Milford, it used to be Milford and Boston. And like I said, Boston sort of moved around. Like I said, we were in Concord one year, and then we moved it out to Worcester. So I think, having the two, works is balanced well. They're about 5-6 months apart. So that helps to have those big events. And there's enough other events, with Connecticut and people do travel. I mean, of course, next year, we should be seeing one in Maine, one in New Hampshire. And those won't be things that I run personally, but we'll be involved in helping in this community. It's nice to have a region of people that are available as resources. But I think that's just it, is that it's, as you said, it's such a huge event. It's so many things to tackle that for one person to do it as a volunteer year round is a lot. And so what I try to do is, of course, I've got a team of people. And I've always told people, anybody's on our leadership team. I mean, there's a select group of people that maybe are a little bit more involved and make more meetings and do more things. But if there's people that want to help in any way, shape, or form, we bring them on. If you can handle this one thing, if you can run a table event for us. Just about a week or so ago, we were in Worcester. One of the other VSOs out there was putting on this massive event, and they had all different types of vendor tables. And so we hosted a table there, an information table. And I wasn't able to go. It was on a Friday during the workday. So my wife went, and some other people, some of the other veterans, hikers went, and they manned that table for the day. But that's how we get people involved. And that's how we do more things throughout the year to get people to come together, whatever that event is, whether it's a gaming, we went to a gaming facility.
Very cool.
People have gone out to the rugby match last week, like you name it. We just, if there's a reason to get together, we'll put it out there. We'll put it on Facebook and say, hey, the guy that traveled around with us the whole day, the musician, he's playing at the brewery. And Craft Roots, I saw you guys kind of flash a picture before, but one of the stops, on the hike that day was Craft Roots Brewery. Dave Penza is playing at Craft Roots this coming Sunday. So, we'll put it out there and say, hey, anybody want to get together, have a drink? Like, let's go support this guy. He supported us. But again, it's another reason to get people together. So we try to do that as often as possible from an event standpoint. The massive event, the hike, once or twice a year in a given town. I suppose if somebody came along and said, hey, I want to do Boston, God bless them. It's not going to be me. But yeah, there's as long as people want to get together, I think there's room for a lot of hikes.
Well, that's one thing I noticed too, that a lot of folks had ribbons from all the other hikes that they've done. Yeah, and some had a lot of ribbons, which is really interesting to see, because obviously that means they love the community and they're bombing around and doing them, because there's, I think, close to 100 across the US or internationally, right? So
and that's just it. Yeah, you'll get people that take vacation time specifically to go to a hike because that's what recharges their battery.
That's really cool. And to switch gears a little bit, right? This is a walk, and we walked pretty far, man. What did we do? 7 miles? How far did we do?
So we officially, I think it was. Oh God, now I don't remember, because officially I think it was 11.
Was it 11 miles?
I think it was 11.
It was a good go, man. I was like,
no, I'm laughing because every year it's kind of funny. Like, I think it was 11, and I have all these people like sending me the pictures of their Fitbit or whatever, and they're like, I did 13, I did 16 miles, and I'm like, listen, what you did in between the time that we were stopped, I can't vouch for you running around smacking people on the rear end and squirting them with water pistols, like.
Yeah, those are all extra miles that weren't on the actual map.
Those do not count against me. But here's the thing, and I know you were going there. Was it's a walk. It's a lot of mileage to cover, but it's not an athletic event, right? And that's the thing I always tell people. I think sometimes when I put out, and this is why I always sort of kind of hide from the mileage, because when people ask me before the hike, oh, how far are we going? And I tell them 10 miles, 11 miles, whatever I tell them, that makes people nervous and they don't come out. What I try to remind people is that, look, we're going 2 miles maximum before we stop. All right. And we're going to take an appropriate break. We're not going to let you sit too long that your legs get tired. We're going to sit long enough that you get a break. We're going to make sure you got plenty of food, plenty of water, plenty of rest. And then we're going to do another 2 miles. And we're going to sort of split it up that way. And we're going to do it together. We start together. We finish together. Right. We've got radios. We stop people at the head of the hike if we need to catch everybody up. But that's the point of it, is to keep everybody together. It's not a 5K or any other athletic event where we're waiting to see who finishes first and last. This is all about staying together as a group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in terms of just, if we talk about just fitness in general, now you've been in the fitness industry for a while, and you have your own gym, Fitness Together. Is it a gym or is it a series of gyms?
So it's a personal training studio. Okay. So we just simply personal training. We schedule appointments throughout the day. We're part of a franchise. So I've owned my franchise now for 20 years, but I've been in the fitness industry for 30 years now. Okay,
right on. And so that's my jam. I love the idea that fitness is the component that is so important for veteran recovery, yet is not often talked about in terms of getting veterans like back on their feet and getting them mentally healthy. So from your perspective, just in general, working with folks, like you're doing a 20K hike. Okay, cool. But how do you get somebody that is going from the couch to just being ready to start being active again? And what are essentially the benefits of folks just like starting a walking program from, your perspective, what you've seen over the last few years?
And for me, it's just getting people moving, right? And sometimes it's even evaluating the movement in and of itself, right? For us, and not just our veteran population, but any of the clients that I work with, that's the first thing we do is we look at their stability, their mobility, what's sort of getting in the way of them even wanting to move. There's a great organization out there, Functional Movement Systems, and I've got a certification through them, but their whole tagline is, move well, move often. And, I'll say to people, it makes a lot of sense, right? If you're not moving well, who the hell wants to move often? If it hurts when you move, you don't want to move often. So we got to first identify why you're not even moving well. Is it due to an injury? Is it something that, maybe your service, contributed to, or just, too much inactivity and now your patterns are all screwed up. So can we fix those things, get you moving well, put you in the right footwear, and then put you on a program where you're moving more regularly? Well, then, hey, maybe walking's not so bad.
Mm-hmm. And so an event like this can kind of, for somebody that's getting back into things, like you said, it's, about a 2 mile kind of stretch in between rest stands. And it was a long day, but it was in no way a bag drive. It wasn't like we're on a death march, right? Like lots of breaks, beers in between, makes the experience a lot better. But and that's commonly what I see as well too. Like, oh, I'm not fit, so therefore I don't even want to get started. But from your experience, like, what are the benefits of walking in general? Because that's something that obviously I'm harping on, because and Mike too, who's in the background, we're really, really keen on getting veterans literally moving again. And how do you think it like connects with mental health, just moving a little bit better?
I was going to say, obviously from all the obvious sort of health benefits of walking, right? And improving your cardiovascular system, all the things that we talk about as fitness professionals all the time. The mental health end of it, I think, is tremendous. In the case of walking, there's so often, not just within the hikes, but I think there's, of course, the social component, right? If you get together with just a few people, one person, and you just, when we go out, there's times when just even training for some of the other events that we do, I might go out with one or two other people, and just the time that we're spending together that afternoon, the things we talk about. And it's not just veteran things, it's life things. We talk about things that are going on at home, things that are going on with our jobs. So it just gives us an opportunity to talk about stuff. You're spending, however long, an hour, 2 hours out on a trail with someone. There's a lot of things to talk about to fill that time. But even me, when I just go out by myself, there's a lot of times where, as a personal trainer, we're busy in the morning, we're busy at night. If I've got 2, 3, 4 hours to kill in the middle of the day, I might just, throw on the boots and a ruck and hit the trail. And, that 2 or 3 hours, sometimes I'm just reflecting on some things. Maybe I got some own, my own things to work out in my head. And maybe sometimes I'm just planning for business.
Right.
And recording things as I walk. Things just come to mind and I just hit the record button, and it gives me time away from my desk to just think about my business.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of great things, about walking that sort of provide that time for people to get inside their own head and sort some things out.
Yeah, definitely. There's a researcher here in Montreal who's a British veteran as well. And we lean heavily on his research because he talks about how men heal differently than women when it comes to psychological trauma. And men need to start doing things shoulder to shoulder, where a walk is a perfect example. It could get a little bit more difficult depending on fitness levels. It could be like a hike in the woods or a canoe portage, but ultimately that's where we do most of our thinking and sharing is in a movement pattern with another man, shoulder to shoulder. So that's why these types of hikes fall in line, not with just how naturally we like to kind of communicate, but the research is very clear on that we can gain a lot just from having a chat with somebody we may not even know, but we're not looking at each other directly. So it's like it's like two big jungle cats, we're not staring at each other, we're looking at something else. It makes things a little bit more easy to open up. And I had some great conversations with some folks that I'd never met before, and we were really getting into some really dark stuff that happened on our tours. And I was like, man, this is so unique. I don't know you, but we're able to share probably more than like we've shared with our loved ones. And we've only known each other for 20 minutes. So that was a very powerful part of the walk. And plus, man, it's just so much fun. Like, I mean, you combine those two together and it's a great way to open up and to shed some of the weight. So Bob,
I think that's why it grew so quickly too. I mean, Donnie O'Malley started this back in 2015, and I think it was really just a way. That was what it was. It was a way for just him to get together with some of his buddies, and they were losing people at a ridiculous rate back home when they people far more than they had lost downrange, and they said like this has got to stop. So let's talk about this, and that was it. Let's get together. Let's go for a walk. Let's talk it out. And they couldn't believe how the therapeutic effect it had. And other people that were there or came or heard about it, and or maybe were there with them that day, said, "God, I gotta go back home and do this in my town." And that's why it spread so quickly, is because people realized the benefit of meeting that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that we're doing it in the veteran community here, and that you guys are doing it down south. I mean, just broadly speaking, I think in general, people need to be doing more of this, veteran or not, just to talk about things, get to know your neighbors, have a little bit more community. I think that's really plaguing a lot of us. And, just because we're hypersensitive to a lack of community as being a veteran, because we're so used to like a hyper community that when you come home and you don't quite have it, it really is destabilizing. And the irony is most of us want to push it away. Well, at least I did. Maybe I don't want to speak for all veterans, but I just want to push it away as a coping mechanism. But coming back in has made me feel infinitely better than what I was doing before. So, folks are kind of on the fence, like, oh, I don't know, I don't like being, once if somebody says something about, look, man, like you can make excuses for not doing it until the cows come home. But the best story was, and I don't remember his name actually, but awesome dude. We met when we were there, and he kind of showed up halfway through, and he's a local, and he just was like, I've been meaning to come, but he's like, I saw you guys walking. I was like, what, fuck it, let's go, I'll go. And he's like, I'm so glad I came, man. I'm so glad I came. And we talked for a good 2-3 hours and had a beer, and it was just a moment, man. He's like, man, you know what? I need to do more of these. And you could just see like the light bulb moment went on, and it was just really cool to be a part of that, because it's not like we're like out there to try and, encourage anybody in terms of like coercing them to come or anything. It was just, we were in the town. He's like, man, you know what? I signed up. I didn't want to go, but I saw you guys. Frig it. Like, I'm going to go. And that was a cool moment. That was a really cool moment.
Yeah, I see that. I see that so often with people, and that's the one thing about being sort of a little closer to the element is, that's the stuff I do get, right? Is, those kinds of stories, the people that maybe were a little nervous about coming out for whatever the reason. There's some people that have signed up and not made it for a couple of years, and then finally, okay, this is the year I go. People have come to the meet and greet the night before, and then said, I'm not so, you know what? All right, because I came to the meet and greet, I'm going to show up tomorrow. At least I met a few people. I feel good about this. But yeah, it's a struggle, and I've heard some really sad stories along the way about what got people there. Not just their sort of, not necessarily about any kind of service, but more so about just the struggles, right? The anxiety and all those different things, are not feeling like they were going to fit in some way, shape, or form. And and then they get there and they realize that there is a place they do fit in, and the community's so accepting. That we do really try to pull everybody in. And I tell you, and the volunteers, I mean, I sort of lump myself into that, but sort of even off hike, all the people you saw that day in the coral colored shirts, those volunteers are amazing as well, because they do a tremendous job sort of supporting. And you think that, okay, they're picking up trash, they're handing out water, but what they're also doing is they're sort of scanning the crowd, right? And they're seeing, gee, that person's alone over there. You know what? Hey, hey, Dave, have you met my friend Bob?
Yeah.
And they are very good about sort of just making sure that nobody's standing there alone. And that's the other job that our volunteers have that sort of really goes unnoticed that day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really important. I mean, right off the bat, as soon as we had like the initial meet and greet with coffee and donuts, I was being introduced to a whole bunch of people. It's like, okay, like awesome. This is literally why we're here, right? We're just and then Mike introduced me to you, obviously, because you guys have been chatting before I showed up. Mike was the reason why we ended up down there, because he's like, yeah, let's head down to Milford. I was like, where's that? It's like just
all places.
Yeah,
when he reached out, I was like, Milford, do you want to come to Milford? Huh? Okay.
He's like, yeah,
I said the same, and to be fair, I said the same thing to Cindy too, because I mean, Milford's great. I mean, I live in Milford, and it's a great town, and all that, but right, it's not this big city hike. There's so many other hikes. Like I said, we've got New York City, we've got Worcester's coming up, and I was like, Worcester's coming up too, but Milford's a different animal, right? We're in the woods, we're not in the big city, and I think there's some, and it's Memorial Day here, so all those sort of components really make it a special day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Now, I mentioned grunt style earlier. You guys have merged with them, haven't you? Like, what's that looking like in the future? Does that mean there's going to be more folks participating? Because like obviously we got a pretty good relationship with grunt style too. But what's that partnership looking like in the future?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't know all the ins and outs just yet. I think that this has sort of been an ongoing thing that they've been working on for quite some time now. Mm-hmm. As far as all the ironed out details, I mean, the sort of generalities of it is that Grunt Style Foundation has several different components that they're involved with, whether it be working on veteran homelessness or food insecurities. Health and wellness is another pillar that they wanted to focus on, and I think that the Irreverent Warriors piece sort of fulfills that pillar on health and wellness. Getting people together and doing some physical activity. Mm-hmm. So from their perspective, I think they certainly bring a lot of leadership and expertise in those areas. They're doing a lot of things in the veteran community for an advocacy standpoint, and and we've got a lot of people that can mobilize and do some of these things. And help the community. So I think it's an interesting partnership for sure. I think that there's a lot of good things that we can do together, and certainly they have a lot of eyeballs, with their apparel line and all that. So it certainly helps veterans that may not have known about Irreverent Warriors learn more about us.
Absolutely, yeah. That's why I really like chatting with guys like Tim and and Will from the foundation, because they've got essentially a model that seems to really be working, because they are veteran owned, veteran operated, and they understand, we got the business and now we're going to get back through the foundation, and they created that triangular compass framework to ensure veterans get healthier. And I'm all in on that, man. That's my jam. Like whatever it takes, and the best organizations that do the best work that help the most veterans possible, so we can kick this and reduce this veteran suicide epidemic. More power to them. So yeah, the Irreverent Warriors brand and the Irreverent Warriors Silkie Hikes makes so much sense, man. Just because it's getting folks out, they're walking, building a stronger community, and I'm sure it's going to have a massive effect on the community, just in improving overall health outcomes, which is what we're trying to do. So
right, and it's resources, right? And I mean, I know that they're doing, a lot of people they're speaking with, a lot of people they're doing work with are looking into different research on different alternative therapies, all those different things. I know it's something that you've covered in some of your podcasts before, but I think that's important, right? And so many people don't know about those things. I mean, I certainly didn't know a lot about a lot of those things until we met with them at our conference back in January. So just hearing them out on these different things, they've got the connections, the people that they're talking to, and to listen to these people talk about the research, I think is huge. And it's not, nobody's forcing anything on anybody, but it gives veterans the opportunity to say, okay, like now I know where to go to hear somebody out about it. And I think that's the important thing, right? Nobody's making decisions for anybody, but it's, hey, if you're looking to do some different things, or hey, maybe this walking thing can help you, right? You should check out this. Hey, maybe this alternative treatment can work for you. Here's where to go get some more information. I think that's what Grunt Style is really doing, bringing all those pieces together, and I think it's great.
Yeah, and I think we're at the perfect moment now, because a lot of us have had enough time that have actually seen success, figure out what we've had success with, and say like, yeah, this program is really good. This has really helped me. And it's been, 5-6 years, and I've, been able to do this, and this. So we've got enough time now to actually see what the progression can actually look like. And those that are able to are sharing their experiences, which is, the point of this podcast is really that, right? Is to talk about organizations like Irreverent Warriors and folks like yourself there in the health and fitness space doing good things. But I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about your hockey career, man. I got an American from Boston talking to a guy from Montreal, and you're a hockey player. I was a hockey player. We got to get into this, man.
We got to put career in kind of quotes there, I think.
All right, well, let's get into it, man. Like, you were a hockey coach, but I don't care about all that until I find out. Are you a Bruins fan or not?
Sure. I've lived here long enough.
You're de facto Bruins fan. Yeah.
Yeah. So I grew up on Long Island. It's always funny. I love this story. Back, the Bruins won the cup in 2011, and everybody around here, my clients said, "Oh, you're a hockey guy. You must be so excited. The Bruins won. Like, you're going to go to the parade. You're going to do this." I said, "Yeah, okay, that's great. It was nice. I cheer for the Bruins. I live here now. Like, it's great." I grew up on Long Island when the Islanders won 4 Stanley Cups in a row.
Right.
My father had season tickets. I was at the game. 3 of the 4 cups they won at home. I was at 3 of those games.
Nice.
I have the netting. Back in the day, people didn't really collect a whole lot of stuff. So the very first Stanley Cup that the Islanders won, they won in overtime. The net that Bobby Nystrom scored into was cut from the frame, and my father worked with some of those guys, and they said, "Oh, your kid plays hockey. All right, you need a net," and I have the netting that they scored into. So I was at 4 parades. I witnessed the Stanley Cup on the ice. All those things. So when the Bruins won 1, I'm like, all right. But moving away from New York, 30 plus years ago. You get a little detached from being an Islanders fan, and they went through some tough times, and I didn't like the direction of the franchise. So yeah, sure, I'm a Bruins fan.
All right, all right, that's okay. I mean, we can still have a good conversation regardless. Bruins being the Canadians' mortal enemies, but I think in recent years it's shifted over to Tampa.
And it's easier for us to be Bruins fans. We're talking to Montreal people now because we've got the better of it lately. So
you're right. When
I first moved here, it wasn't. Yeah, when I first moved here, that wasn't the case. So it was a little harder to have that conversation. But
no,
we're the big dog right now, so we'll take it.
I agree. We had that fluke in 2021 where I ended up in the Stanley Cup Finals, which I sometimes wonder, like, did we actually go there? Like, it was during COVID. There's nobody in the stadium. What was this? We're in the Stanley Cup Finals playing against Tampa Bay. It didn't make any sense, but it was fun nonetheless. But in terms of hockey, what like you still play? What's your hockey?
So I haven't learned my lesson yet.
Okay.
You know, and that's sort of like, I mean, you want to sort of pull this full circle. I mean, I played hockey. You know, I think I put on skates when I was 2 years old. I played my whole life. I played very competitively. Sort of my little brush with fame story is, I played on teams that back in the day played against Eric Lindros and Scott Stevens and all those guys. Like, so, and we won. So I can say that definitively the one time we played Eric Lindros, we won 7-4.
Oh, nice.
Kept him off the score sheet. I still remember that. But all those things. So I played very competitively, but when I was 13, 14 years old, I blew out my knee and tore the ligaments in my knee. And that really sort of set me back a little bit. That and I stopped growing. I'm 5'7", so not too many 5'7" defensemen with knee injuries floating around the NHL.
Well, like nowadays, Mike's throwing up some ugly, some old footage on Chara driving Pacioretty's face into the stanchion, smashing him into oblivion.
But like that. So, but that really sort of transformed me because I having to rehab myself, put myself through go to therapy and all those things was what brought me into this world of fitness. And really sort of launched the idea that, okay, maybe I want to be a physical therapist. Maybe I want to, do these things. And, one reason or another that didn't sort of go that way. And ultimately, I got into the fitness industry because of it. But it was, because of those experiences, playing hockey but it's also the type of thing where now, I say I haven't learned my lesson. I mean, now I'm 51 years old. The knees aren't what they used to be. The surgery I had, 40 years ago, is done its toll on me. And, but yet I still find a way to play twice a week.
Nice.
But it's like, it's like the things we said before about the veteran community or just, getting together for a hike. It's, something about getting together with the guys and hanging out in the locker room and being on the ice and, playing those games. And, there's just something relaxing to me about that. And that's far more important a lot of days than the pain I might have in my knee the next day because of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wish I could say I played as much as you did. I really let it go over the last few years, and it's because of my knees. They hurt so much the day after that it almost makes it unworthwhile. But I love it so much, and it breaks my heart every time I don't go out. I'm always like, hey, we need an extra player today. So I think I just need to take the health of my joints a little bit more seriously because I think I can make it work, and clearly you do, and you've had an injury. So that's one of those sports too that when I think about clearing my mind, and it can just have a moment where I'm not thinking about work, I'm not thinking about I got to get this email out. Hockey is just that sport, right? I'm like I play beer league, no contact, and there's not even a ref on the ice, right? We just kind of horse around. I love it, man. And, it's a great workout. And at the end, we have a beer and we chat with the boys, and then that's that. So I definitely have a soft spot for hockey. I'm trying to get my kids involved as well. Even though we didn't have any ice this winter outside, which kind of broke my heart. Freaking global warming, eh? Brutal. But it's good that you're still active in the hockey community because you got to do what you love, especially when it comes to fitness and health, right? You got to keep on doing those important things that keep you moving. Like you said, like you got to be moving. You just got to be moving. And move well is also very important as well. So, Bob, before we wrap up, where can folks find out more information about the Silkie Hikes and more information about you and your fitness studio?
Yeah. So with the fitness studio, I mean, like I said, I own Fitness Together here in Massachusetts. I have 2 locations in Ashland and in Southborough. Fitnesstogether.com is the easiest way to find us. And there's studios, again, I'm part of a franchise. So, if someone's not local, obviously they can find a studio closest to them. And the same holds true, Irreverent Warriors. And I joke around that Irreverent Warriors is a sense, a franchise model in that, we've got our corporate, if you will, or national based out of Texas. But there are so many locations, so many hikes, so many events going on throughout the country and international, as we identified before. So irreverentwarriors.com. There are different locations or communities. You can get right to those pages through the communities or events pages there, and find whatever's going on in your area. Here in Massachusetts, as I said, we have October 5th is our next hike in Worcester, and we'll be out there. But we've got a lot of events between now and then as well.
Right on. That's amazing. And any last words of wisdom?
I'm watching Mike try to type in Worcester.
That's gonna be a Google search for sure.
Yeah.
I would have no idea.
Oh yeah, we gotta do the whole thing on how to pronounce Massachusetts town names, because you see the way it's spelled and everybody wants to say Worcester.
Isn't it Worcester?
Right? No, it's Worcester.
Worcester.
We had on our I think on our shirts last year, Wooster. It's pronounced Worcester. But even out here, everybody's got a little different pronunciation for it, but it's definitely not Worcester. So
that's how you tell. That's how you tell you've got invaders coming.
That's right.
Like, where are you guys? You guys are Canadian? No, we're from here. It's like, say this word, Worcester.
Yeah. Oh, there's some really funny videos online about all the different town names because it's easy to screw them up.
Right on. So, words of wisdom before we sign off.
Yeah, I think everything we talked about today. It's really just being a part of something, right? Like showing up. Whether it's me showing up, to become part of this community, a veteran just showing up and sort of feeling connected again. But it's connecting with somebody, something that, maybe you don't identify with right now, but get out. Don't just, there's too many people, there's too many organizations. And that was a big learning experience for me, that there's just so many groups, so many ways to get involved, other than be isolated in your home, and whether again it's the veteran community, the civilian population. We talk to our clients about it. Somebody calls me up for a fitness program. Right, what are you doing? I'm sitting home on my couch. I haven't done anything. So whatever the case is, right, the key to health and wellness is showing up, getting out, and being a part of something. So whatever it is that works for you, I think it's just reminding people that there are people out there that can help them.
Awesome. Yeah, that's bang on, man. Just getting out there and putting yourself out there. And especially when it comes to fitness, the easiest thing is I shouldn't say the easiest thing, but one of the easiest ways to ensure that you stick with it is get a battle buddy. And what better way to find battle buddies than to go to a Silkie Hike?
Yeah,
maybe absolutely. in Worcester.
In Worcester.
I'm having a hard time, man. I'm not gonna lie. So, Bob, really appreciate your time, man. Continued success with the Silkie Hike in Milford, and definitely, hopefully, fingers crossed, bring down a few more Canadian buddies next year for your hike. And folks, thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to go check out your Silkie Hikes in your closest area if you're in Canada, and if you're in the United States, find Silkie Hikes on the website. Don't forget, train hard, fight easy. See you folks on the next one. Peace.